Hey, Keith here for Am I Rich? And today, yes, I'm back. I know it's been a while. I was feeling very sick for the longest time. I never was feeling 100% really. Now I'm up to maybe 98%. So we're going to talk about, yes, MTY group again. So MTY is a stock that I thought was probably undervalued, especially if it went under $60. Well, it's dropped dramatically yesterday and about 8%. And the reason was, well, they purchased ticker symbol FRSH, which is Papa Murphy's Take and Bake Pizza. So Papa Murphy's, this company, they are probably the fifth largest pizza chain in the United States, and they also have the largest take home and bake your own pizza business in the United States. So that's kind of their niche market. They're basically, if you don't know what they are, they're like a Subway, or like a Subway kind of store where you just put your pizza together, you pick all the toppings, and they make it in front of you, and they have all the ingredients in front of you, and then you take the pizza home and bake it. And they're moving into a system in the future where they deliver these pizzas, even though they're not cooked. So it's kind of an interesting market. They are going after people who maybe don't want the pizza cooked right away. They want to use it for later, so get it delivered during the day, and then they come home later and cook it when they're ready for a party or something. They don't want it delivered early or have to wait around for it. You know, there's that kind of a niche. Another part of their niche business is, and maybe a risk to their business, is in the United States specifically, they also receive food stamps. So people who receive food stamps also are able to purchase these pizzas because they're not pre-cooked. So that's kind of a little side part of their business that does well. So people who are struggling can still get these takeout pizzas. So that's kind of an interesting aspect. Now, so MTY stock was down about 8%, and Papa Murphy's pizza stock was up over 30%. And the reason was because MTY purchased Papa Murphy's for maybe 30%, or like for $6.25 a share is what they plan to buy it for, which is about 30% over what their stock price was. So part of it, people, I think, they think the finances are going to be different for MTY, so their stock price dropped. They're also thinking they're buying a pizza chain that has been kind of slowing down in its growth for the last couple of years, so not really doing that well. And I kind of look at it a little different, and maybe this is why MTY is buying it. So if we just go over the financials quickly, with the new merger, you have MTY. It's at its current price, which is I think it's like $53.79 Canadian. It gives it a PE ratio of 13.2, and a forward PE, I think it's estimated at like around 17. But with the new merger acquisition, it depends on how they want to calculate the numbers and what they actually estimate in the future. But it's very likely to be less than 25 anyways. And probably, you know, a significant amount cheaper than that. The price to book for MTY is 1.8, so kind of middle of the road. And it has a dividend, and its dividend is a lot better now because of the lower price. So it's 1.2% right now. I don't know that it's, you know, it's not the greatest dividend, but it does grow. And they have a growth rate of between 20.3 and 27.8, depending on how you want to calculate its future earnings. You know, you have to make a few assumptions now that they've merged and what their earnings are going to be. But in the last 5 years, they've been growing at over 20% per year for sure. Now, as far as Papa Murphy's goes, now it has a PE ratio of 25.8, which seems a lot higher than MTY. So MTY, you think maybe they're getting a bad deal if you just look at PE. But if you actually look at the fast food industry, PE ratios are usually closer to the 30 mark. They're usually quite a bit overvalued compared to other traditional businesses. So when you're looking at both these P's, they're both fairly cheap in my mind. I mean, 25 it's okay anyways for a fast food, as long as the name brand is decent. Then the price to book ratio, which is another great thing about Papa Murphy's, is it was at 1.1 or a little bit below that, so just barely paying more than its assets minus its liabilities. And it had no dividend, so I think it had a better price to book value than MTY, a higher PE ratio, but I think if you kind of combine those two in some ways, you can get a value that I think is pretty reasonable, and I think both companies are pretty reasonable. And because fast food chains typically trade at a lot higher rate, I do see these companies both as being undervalued. And so even though, like this is all estimating like the $6.25 that MTY is planning to buy for Papa Murphy's. So people said they might have paid 30% premium, but the way I see it is, I think a fair value for Papa Murphy's. Sorry, not Papa John's. For Papa Murphy's, even if you kind of like average out their earnings over the last 5 years, I think you could easily say that the stock's probably worth somewhere in the $7 range, $7.50 maybe. So I still think MTY kind of got a deal on this. And then MTY's stock, I think, is also undervalued. And so since it dropped another, like 8%, I really think this is probably a good thing for people who are interested in MTY. Now, of course, you have to do your own research. There could be a lot of, caveats or risks for this purchase. The main reason some of the main reasons they stated for doing this is also they wanted to improve their cash flow throughout the year. Although this is a little bit unclear because from June to maybe August, the sales aren't that good at Papa Murphy's. They're better in the winter months. I guess when you have outdoors, people can cook outdoors and things like that, so they maybe are more likely to cook outside at their own house or go somewhere else. But anyways, so MTY is also similar. They do a lot of sales in kind of the Christmas season, especially when people go to malls for their other stores, which are like Pinkberry and Juga Juice and Grab a Greens, things like that. So it just kind of goes hand in hand, I think, with MTY's strategies. Their normal strategy is kind of find a franchise that can meet what people's demands are in the market. So whatever the trends are. Papa Murphy's deals with thin crust. People like thin crust pizzas more than the thick crusts typically. This one, it's kind of a niche. It's kind of hard to say whether this is the best purchase or not that they made, but I don't think it's a horrible one. And they also have the franchising skills to maintain, a robust kind of business for Papa Murphy's. And they've been able to, they have enough cash on hand to pay out all their debts. So without any issues at all, really. So yeah, I kind of think the positive case scenario is, MTY is cheap and people have overestimated what kind of a good deal maybe MTY did get on Papa Murphy's. Now the downside, of course, is that they did, maybe Papa Murphy's is doomed, maybe nobody likes it. I've checked reviews online and it seems to be a decent liking for it. Obviously it's not for everybody, but the niche people who do like it seem to be just fine with it. I mean, it had reviews usually over 4 stars out of 5, and that's pretty good for most businesses, so especially if it's a chain. So yeah, I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you guys think Papa Murphy's is going to just dwindle away and be a horrible acquisition for MTY? Or do you think this is just a fine acquisition? This just goes totally hand in hand with MTY's, buy a franchise that either is very trendy or one that is not doing as well but sees some upside, and then suddenly using that their leverage to spread it throughout many areas of North America and maybe around the world, and grow it that way, and then maybe spin it off later. They also deleverage brands when they don't think they're as popular or going to make as much money. So I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you in the next video.